Hey everybody, DJChance here. I'm here to do a quick review on the Numark DJ2Go DJ Mini Controller. Now let's get right into it. And here it is. Now first of all, this is an $80 unit. And for $80, it's pretty feature packed. I mean, it's got everything you need and a couple extra things for a starting off DJ. Even for a pro DJ, this is a great little backup piece. It's USB powered, you have no power button, no giant transformer that you need to plug into. You just install this and it's ready to go. So if you're on a plane, on your way to a gig, or on the train, and you think of a mix or you want to work on something, a preset right there, you can just whip this out, plug it in, put it in your lap. As long as your laptop is charged, you can make a nice little mix there before you get to the club. Now let's get into the wheel. Now the wheel does actually have scratch capability, but it only does it while the track is paused. While it's spinning, you can only spin it forward or nudge it back to catch your BPMs, such as this. But while it's paused, you can do a spin back, spin forward, whatever you want to do there. But when it's paused, you have the ability to actually do a simple scratch. Now you're not going to do your autobahns and orbits on this thing. You're going to do more like a baby scratch, maybe a chirp, a Joe Cooley. You might even get away with a flare. Now the crossfader itself, even though it's pretty smooth for what it is smoother than my DDJ up faders, which was pretty impressive in itself. I thought this was going to be a really tight moving fader, like old school Geminis or something. When you got them, you had to use a Radio Shack spray to loosen your fader, if anyone remembers the contact spray. But the fader is functional. It works well. I have it on its sharpest cut, but it still has to open up quite a bit to get some sound. So let me show you. You can do something while I'm paused. You get a little thing going. So you can do quick little cuts. Now, let's get into the pitch control. The pitch control is really, really small. So every little increment that you move this pitch fader, you're actually going to get a 0.12 movement on your BPMs. Now let me show you what I mean. So on my software, as you can see right there, it says 92.29. Now my increment that I move my pitch fader, you're going to see it jump up to 41, 53, 65, 77. You get the idea. Now, that's not that big of an issue if you're just coming in and out of mixes pretty quickly, but if you're trying to do a long 32-beat mix, maybe a 16-bit, you're going to have to ride this wheel. You're going to really have to ride the dial to get that mix perfect. Or, let's get into it. Use the dreaded and controversial sync button. Now, I don't mind the sync button. I use the sync button for transitions because I don't like to be the DJ that's going from a 128 to a 95 beat per minute or a 102, by stopping the music, and, saying a shout out or hitting a sample and then starting your different BPM track. If this pitch control was readily available to do plus or minus 50% or plus or minus 16% even, you could be able to do some good transitions manually on the fly. But this pitch control only does plus or minus 8%. Now it doesn't show that on the unit, it just has a plus or minus, but there is no capability for it to go 16 or 50. So you've got the very limited range, kind of like you had with your first turntables. You can only do your plus or minus 8, so you have to make the best of it. Now, the pads themselves, they're pretty hard, I have to say. They're kind of like a hard candy consistency. They don't have that soft, velvety, kind of sensual feel that an MPC has, or Denon Prime, or an RZ, or SZ. So you got to kind of whack these really hard to get some kind of sound out of them. As you can see, I'm hitting them now, fader's open, nothing's happening. See, you really have to mean that cue. You got to mean that freaking loop you're doing or sample. So you really got to beat this thing down. Maybe you want to do some tone play, or you're a drumming. As you can see, it's pretty loud, the clicking too. So just be aware that you don't have that nice soft feel. You really got to smack the hell out of these things. So I don't know how well this will handle the abuse, especially if you're someone who likes to tone play a lot or play with the pads and drum beats with them, or drum beat with them, I should say. So I don't know how long that'll last, but so far I've had no issues, no bleed through, no crackling. Now, the headphone's pretty straightforward. You just turn that on. There's your headphone. Turn this one on. There's that one. Now with the headphone, you don't have a post-mix in your volume for your ear. This is your headphone volume all the way to the right here. You have to press both in order to hear both. So you only get a pre-mix. So just be aware of that. You're not going to get the post-mix in your ear. You're going to have to do one ear on, one ear off, or do both of these. And hopefully you're getting it out the right way on the output. Now, the Q section, it's pretty straightforward. Wherever you press it, that's going to be your cue point. So if I want a different place for it, so there it is. The cue kind of gives you almost like having a fifth sample pad or a fifth cue pad, but wherever you change it again. So if I hit that and that stopped, now I've set my cue to wherever it was I put it. Let's say I spin it forward and now I want it there. So there's your cue. It's pretty straightforward. Now, when you're playing your samples, or your cues I should say, if you're doing a cue there and you suddenly decide, alright, I actually want this to mix, I don't want to start this over, while holding whatever cue point, you hit play and the track will just start. But if you don't, see, it's going to stop. So if you hold it in and then hit the button, now it's going to play. So it does this with all controllers. If you weren't aware of that, it's the same here. So if you're used to some controllers, you're going to have the same kind of consistency in the use of it. The UI is pretty much the same. Now, the pad modes are actually pretty useful. They have your cues, and you also have your auto loop and your manual loop. Now let me zoom in a little bit there for you. You see there's the auto and manual and the loop right above it. There's no roll feature, there's no slicer, but again, it's an $80 unit and it is functional. Now, what I think Numark should have done is do something with this pad mode, because when you switch pad modes, both decks do the same thing. You see the lights are turning on and off. Now they're both in manual loop. Now in sampler mode, but the sampler mode doesn't affect the decks. That's just whatever samples you have set separately. You know, your DJChance, whatever you have there. So the good thing that Numark thought of is in the sample mode, you get all 8 sample pads. Like most people thought you only get 1, 2, 3, and 4 for each deck. But Numark made it, when you're in sample mode, this would be your 5, 6, 7, and 8 sample banks. That's a cool feature. No one would have missed that had it not been there, because I know most people have already reserved themselves to thinking they only have 4. So if you already have this unit and you didn't know that, there's a little tidbit for you. 5, 6, 7, and 8 would be here. Now, the thing about this switching both decks to do the same of those 3 functions, I feel that the pad mode should be a shift button, because I don't think they'd be able to fit another shift button here. I think Numark really needs a shift button, because holding in the pad mode and you want a manual loop here, you could hold it in and manual could be here. You load it to deck 2 as your manual, and then you want your cues for deck 1, or you want to do an auto loop on deck 1. You hold this down for 2-3 seconds, whatever it is. I think that Numark should add a little shift feature here, because not only for that, the sync button. So that way you can hit the shift button, hold it down, and turn off the sync. So you don't have to turn the sync off inside the software. I don't really like that you have to do that. So a shift button, I'd pay extra for. Make this a $100 unit, add the shift, and you've got 2 new features there. And I think that would be well worth the trouble for Numark. Now, it's pretty straightforward. You've got your headphone jack on this end. There's your USB power, your second deck, and you've got your Q level. Here are your levels here for each line. So you don't have an up fader, obviously. These would take place of kind of where your gains would be on bigger controllers up at the top. So there's your master output. And now the browse that you have here, the browse knob and the load, some people don't know what that is. You're able to scroll through tracks, and when you press it down, you can switch from your crates to your track list, or maybe you've got your file browser open. And let me show you what I mean. So if you look into the software itself, and you don't let this light blind you, I will press in my browse button, and you'll see that now I am switching through my tracks. So I'll go there and let's load the track, press load 1, and now that's there.
DJChance.
I have to switch to Q mode. Whoa! Professional DJ here. So there we go. So that's your browse and depress button. You press it in again, now I'll scroll through my crates and be able to do whatever I need there. Click it again, and now I can scroll through my tracks in my crate. So let me load that track. Let's load that. And that's basically it. Now, if you have, let's zoom in a bit here. Now, if you have your file folder open, or you have your browse, or prepare crate, let's take 4 of these songs and just throw random songs into the prepare crate. Now, when you tap in the browse button, it's going to bring you through all 3 of these sections now. It'll bring you from here to here to here. So let me press it in. Now it's in crate mode. See, it's going through the crates. I'll press it again. Now it's going through your prepare crate. So if you have your file folder open, the same thing. Now I can scroll through my files and just press in, and you can load whatever it is you need to load from that. As you see, it did it. It took some time because it's a huge terabyte drive. So there it is. And then you press it in again, and you would get to whatever is on this side. And because that's actually an iTunes playlist, it's not going to go through it right now. So if I go back to that, let me show you what I mean. See, now it opened up something. Now I'll depress it again. Now I can scroll through that, depress that again, and go through that now. And then hit it again. So it depends on how many windows you have open over here on what this browse button and pressing it in is going to control. And that's basically it. This is your Numark DJ2Go2 controller. I have other videos coming up with other tutorials, other reviews. I'll try to give my take on a lot of these things. So for now, that's it. DJChance. Master and make money.